Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And today we're going to be talking about weight loss.
Yeah.
But not just any weight loss. We're going to be talking about weight loss from the perspective of this book, Tiny Changes, Big Results, the microstacking and journaling weight loss method. So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about losing weight by making small changes.
Tiny changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So before we get started, have you had a chance to look over the book?
I have. Yeah, I actually found it really interesting. I think it's a really refreshing approach
Yeah.
to weight loss because it focuses on sustainability and, those small changes that you can actually stick with.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point, So many diets out there, it's like all or nothing.
Right.
You have to cut out entire food groups or follow these super rigid rules, and it just feels so overwhelming and unsustainable.
Exactly. It's like they're setting you up for failure.
Yes, and the book actually makes a great analogy. It says that traditional dieting is like trying to sprint a marathon.
I love that analogy.
You just can't keep up that pace. You're going to burn out and end up right back where you started.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many people struggle with yo-yo dieting.
Yeah, you restrict, and then you just can't take it anymore and you binge.
And then you feel guilty, and the cycle starts all over again.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle. So this book is all about breaking that cycle by focusing on making those tiny changes that you can actually incorporate into your life for the long haul.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this concept of micro-stacking that the book talks about.
Me too. Can you explain that a little bit more for our listeners?
Sure. So basically, micro-stacking is the idea of breaking down those big, overwhelming goals, like I want to lose 20 pounds,
Right.
into tiny, manageable actions,
So instead of saying, I'm going to work out for an hour every day, which can feel really daunting,
especially if you're not used to exercising regularly.
you might start with something as simple as doing one push-up.
I love that example from the book.
It seems almost too easy, right?
Right, but that's the point.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum.
Yeah, those tiny wins, they start to add up and they create this positive feedback loop where you feel good about yourself, so you're more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. And as you start to feel stronger and more confident, you can gradually increase the intensity or the duration of your workouts.
So you might go from one push-up to 5 push-ups to maybe a full set of 10.
Right. It's about starting small and building from there.
I think that's such a brilliant approach because it takes the pressure off. It
Yes.
makes it almost impossible to fail.
And it makes it feel less overwhelming, which is key for making those changes stick.
Now, the book also talks a lot about journaling for weight loss, but it's not just about like meticulously tracking every single calorie you consume, is it?
No, not at all. It's more about self-awareness and understanding your relationship with food.
I like that. It's like becoming a weight loss detective.
Exactly. You're looking for clues in your daily habits and your emotions around food.
So what kind of things would we be tracking in our journals?
Well, the book outlines different types of journaling. One is emotional trigger journaling. So this is where you would note what you're feeling when you reach for a snack. Are you stressed? Are you bored? Are you actually hungry?
Right. Because sometimes we eat for emotional reasons rather than physical hunger.
Exactly. And by becoming aware of those triggers, you can start to develop healthier coping mechanisms.
So if I realize I'm always reaching for a bag of chips when I'm feeling stressed, maybe I need to find a different way to manage my stress, like going for a walk or taking a few deep breaths.
Exactly. It's about finding those healthy alternatives.
And another type of journaling the book mentions is habit tracking, right?
Yes. So this is a really simple but effective way to reinforce those positive changes you're making. It's basically just checking off those tiny actions you're stacking each day.
It's like giving yourself a gold star for every small win.
Exactly. And it helps you stay motivated and on track.
So for example, if one of my micro actions is to drink a glass of water before every meal, I would check that off in my journal each day.
Right. And as you see those check marks adding up, it reinforces that sense of accomplishment and keeps you moving forward.
Okay. And there was one more type of journaling mentioned, right? Progress reflection journaling.
Yes. So this is where you take some time each week to review your progress, celebrate your wins, and identify any areas where you might want to focus on.
So it's like a weekly check-in with yourself.
Exactly. It helps you stay accountable and make adjustments as needed.
I love how this whole approach feels so much more human than those traditional restrictive diets.
It's about working with your body, not against it.
And speaking of different approaches, the book doesn't just advocate one right way to lose weight. It actually explores 13 different methods.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Because what works for one person may not work for another.
It's like a weight loss buffet. You get to choose what appeals to you.
Exactly. And the book provides a framework for figuring out which methods might be the best fit for your individual needs and lifestyle.
So I'm curious, what are some of the methods that stood out to you?
Well, one that I found really interesting was calorie counting.
Okay, but for a lot of people, calorie counting can feel very restrictive and obsessive.
Right. But the book presents it in a different light. It's not about deprivation. It's about awareness.
So it's more about understanding what you're actually consuming.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And using that information to make more informed choices.
So instead of feeling like you're constantly restricting yourself, it's about making gradual shifts towards a healthier eating pattern.
Right. And the book also emphasizes that you don't have to count calories forever. It's more of a tool to use in the beginning to help you develop a better understanding of portion sizes and the nutritional content of different foods.
That makes sense. So what other methods caught your eye?
Well, intermittent fasting is one that's been getting a lot of attention lately,
Yeah, it seems to be super trendy right now.
and for good reason. There's a lot of research emerging about its potential benefits.
But there are so many different approaches to intermittent fasting, it can be a little confusing.
Yeah, the book does a great job of breaking it down and explaining the different methods like the 16.8 method and the 5.2 method.
Can you give us a quick rundown of what those actually involve?
Sure. So the 16.8 method is basically where you fast for 16 hours and then have an 8-hour window where you can eat all your meals.
So you might skip breakfast and have your first meal at noon?
Exactly.
Mm.
And then finish your last meal by 8 p.m.
Okay, and what about the 5.2 method?
With the 5.2 method, you eat normally for 5 days a week, and then on 2 non-consecutive days, you restrict your calories to 500, 600.
So it's more of a cyclical approach.
Right. And there's also alternate day fasting, where you fast every other day. But the book emphasizes that it's important to talk to your doctor before trying any of these methods, especially if you have any health conditions.
Yes, safety first, always.
But for those who are curious about the science behind intermittent fasting, it essentially works by forcing your body to tap into stored fat for fuel.
Because when you're fasting, your body eventually runs out of its preferred energy source, which is glucose.
Exactly. And then it starts to break down fat for energy, which is a process called ketosis.
So it's similar to the low-carb diet in that it's all about getting your body into that fat-burning mode.
Right. But the key with intermittent fasting is that it's not just about what you eat. It's also about when you eat.
And I think that's what makes it appealing to a lot of people. It's not as restrictive as some other diets in terms of food choices.
You're just limiting the time frame in which you eat.
Now, you mentioned the plant-based diet earlier, and I think there's a misconception that you have to go full vegan to reap the benefits.
Right. But the book takes a more moderate approach. It's about incorporating more plant-based meals into your week. Even if it's just 1 or 2 meatless meals, it can make a difference.
Yeah, I've been trying to do that myself lately, like swapping out one of my usual meat-heavy dinners for a vegetarian option.
Exactly. It's all about those small changes that add up over time.
And there are so many delicious plant-based options out there these days. You don't have to sacrifice flavor or satisfaction.
Not at all. There are amazing recipes for lentil soups, veggie stir-fries, salads loaded with nuts and seeds. The possibilities are endless.
It sounds like a really enjoyable way to eat for your health and for the planet.
Exactly. See, those are just a few of the methods that I found interesting, but the book covers so much more.
It's really like a comprehensive guide to weight loss.
And the best part is that it emphasizes personalization. It's about finding what works for you in your lifestyle.
And beyond the specific diet approaches, the book also delves into the science of habits, right?
Yeah, it talks about how habits are formed and how we can actually change them, which is so fascinating.
I'm always amazed by the power of our brains and how we can rewire those neural pathways.
The book explains this concept called the habit loop, which has 3 parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward.
Okay, can you break that down a little bit more?
Sure. So let's say your cue is coming home from work feeling stressed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Your routine might be pouring yourself a glass of wine and reaching for a bag of chips.
Oh, yeah, that's a familiar one.
And the reward is that temporary feeling of relaxation and comfort.
But the problem is that over time, that habit can become really ingrained and it can lead to unhealthy patterns.
Exactly. So the key to breaking a bad habit is to first become aware of the cue, the routine, and the reward.
And then you can start to interrupt that loop and replace it with a healthier alternative.
Exactly. So instead of reaching for the chips, you might go for a walk or call a friend or take a hot bath. Anything that helps you de-stress in a healthier way.
It's about rewiring those neural pathways.
Right. And the book emphasizes that it's easier to replace a habit than to try to eliminate it altogether.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about microstacking, journaling, the science of habits, and all these different weight loss methods. But there's another theme that really stood out to me throughout the book, which is the emphasis on personalization.
Yeah, I think that's so important because there's no one-size-fits-all approach to weight loss,
The most effective method is the one that you can actually stick with.
and that's going to look different for everyone depending on their individual needs, preferences, and lifestyle.
So the book encourages you to experiment and find what works best for you.
Exactly. It's about empowering you to take control of your health and well-being,
And it provides tools to help you do that, like the 30-day micro-stacking challenge.
which is a great way to test out different strategies and see what feels right for you.
It's like a test drive for healthy habits.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just diet and exercise.
Mm.
The book also acknowledges the importance of other factors that can influence weight loss, like sleep and stress management.
I think those are often overlooked, but they're so crucial.
Yeah, like sleep deprivation can actually throw off your hormones, which can lead to increased appetite and cravings for sugary foods.
So getting enough sleep is almost like a weight loss superpower.
It's essential. And then there's stress, which can lead to elevated levels of cortisol, which over time can contribute to increased belly fat storage.
Wow, so stress isn't just bad for our mental health. It can actually physically change our body.
It's a reminder that we need to find healthy ways to manage stress, whether it's through exercise, meditation, spending time in nature, or whatever works for you.
And this book doesn't shy away from addressing those real-life challenges that can derail us on our weight loss journey.
Like weight loss plateaus, emotional eating, and even navigating social situations where food is front and center.
Because let's face it, those office donuts and birthday cakes are a part of life.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance that allows you to enjoy those things without sacrificing your progress.
Now, one last thing I wanted to touch on is the section in the book that debunks common nutrition myths.
Yeah, there's so much misinformation out there, it can be hard to know what to believe.
The book tackles some of the most common ones like all carbs are bad and skipping meals helps you lose weight.
And it explains why those beliefs are actually not true and can even backfire.
I think a lot of people have fallen victim to those myths, myself included.
It's so important to have accurate information, and the book does a great job of providing that.
So beyond the core concepts, this book is also packed with resources to help you put everything into action.
It has exercise routines for all fitness levels, a calorie counter journaling templates, and even recipes.
Look at a toolkit for weight loss.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gives you everything you need to get started and stay on track.
I love that. It's not just about giving you information, it's about empowering you to take action and create lasting change.
And it reminds us that weight loss is not just about the number on the scale. It's about our overall health and well-being.
It's about feeling good in our bodies and having a positive relationship with food and movement.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
Now, before we move on to part 2, where I will delve deeper into those 13 weight loss methods, I'm curious, what tiny change are you inspired to try after this first part?
That's a great question. You know, I've always struggled with mindless snacking while I'm working. So I think I'm going to try that micro-stacking approach and commit to taking a 5-minute walk every time I feel the urge to raid the pantry.
I love that. That's a fantastic tiny change. And for our listeners out there, what tiny change will you experiment with? Remember, even the smallest actions can lead to remarkable results over time.
We'd love to hear from you. Share your tiny change commitments with us. We're all in this together.
That's it for part 1 of our deep dive into tiny changes, big results.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore those 13 weight loss methods in more detail.
See you soon.
Bye. Welcome back to our deep dive on tiny changes, big results.
In part 1, we went over those key ideas, microstacking, journaling, really getting to know ourselves.
Now let's get into the specifics of those 13 weight loss methods in the book. Ready to unpack these?
Definitely. Let's start with intermittent fasting. I know it's popular, but honestly, I get a bit confused with all the different ways to do it.
The book breaks it down really well. It's not so much about what you eat, but when you eat. You're basically cycling between eating and fasting periods.
So it's about timing. Could you walk us through some common methods?
Of course. One is the 16.8 method. You fast for 16 hours, then have an 8-hour window for all your meals.
Okay, so if someone's not a breakfast person, they could have their first meal at noon and finish dinner by 8 p.m.
Exactly. Then there's the 5.2 method. It's a bit different. You eat normally for 5 days, and on 2 non-consecutive days, restrict calories to 500, 600.
Sounds more challenging, but maybe good for those who want flexibility on those normal eating days.
There's also alternate day fasting, where you fast every other day. But before anyone tries that, talk to your doctor, especially if you have health concerns.
Safety first. But for those curious about the science, why does intermittent fasting work for weight loss?
Well, when you fast, your body eventually runs out of glucose, its preferred energy. Then it taps into stored fat for fuel.
That's where ketosis comes in, right?
Yes. Ketosis is that state where your body burns fat for energy. That's why IF can be effective.
But like you said, it's not a magic fix for everyone.
The book stresses that. You have to find what suits you and your life.
Okay, let's move on to another popular one, the low-carb diet. So many variations. What's the book's take?
The core idea is to cut carbs significantly, forcing your body to use fat for energy.
So similar to IF, it's about getting into that fat-burning mode, ketosis.
Exactly. A popular version is the ketogenic diet, or keto.
Keto's everywhere these days. What's different?
Keto goes further, drastically cutting carbs and upping fat intake. You're changing how your body gets energy.
People on keto give up a lot of foods, right?
There are restrictions, especially initially. But the book suggests gradual changes, like swapping one high-carb meal for a low-carb one.
So instead of cereal, you might have eggs with avocado. Or instead of pasta, zucchini noodles. Gradual swaps.
Right. Small changes so it's less overwhelming. Now let's talk about a diet gaining attention for health and environmental reasons, the plant-based diet.
People think you have to go full vegan, but the book's more moderate.
It's about adding more plant-based meals. Even 1 or 2 meatless meals can make a difference.
More veggies, fruits, legumes, and whole grains. Sounds nourishing.
And delicious. Lentil soups, veggie stir-fries, salads with nuts and seeds, endless options.
Sounds great for you and the planet. Okay, shifting gears. The paleo diet or caveman diet. Explain that one.
It's about eating like our hunter-gatherer ancestors did. Lean meats, fish, fruits, veggies, nuts, and seeds.
No processed foods, grains, dairy, or sugar. Pretty restrictive. Sustainable.
It can be tough, but the book has micro-stacking tips. Start by swapping one processed snack for a paleo-friendly one.
So instead of chips, almonds, or baby carrots with hummus. I love those swaps.
They make a difference. Okay, this one might appeal to busy folks, the meal replacement plan method.
Those shakes and bars, good for weight loss.
They can be, especially for convenience. But choose wisely. The book says look for ones with nutrients, not just empty calories.
So protein, fiber, healthy fats, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And remember, they shouldn't be your whole diet. Use them strategically alongside whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay, makes sense. For protein lovers, let's talk high-protein diets. What are the benefits of focusing on protein?
Protein keeps you full longer. It also helps build and maintain muscle, which boosts metabolism.
Steak at every meal, then?
Not necessarily. The book suggests simple ways to up your protein, like Greek yogurt at breakfast, grilled chicken or fish at lunch, or lentils or beans at dinner.
Manageable changes. It's not about a total diet overhaul. Now, we can't forget exercise.
The book has a whole section on exercise for weight loss. It's not about punishing yourself at the gym.
Thank goodness. That turns so many people off.
It's about finding ways to move that you enjoy. There are routines for all levels, but start small.
Even 5 minutes is better than nothing. As you get stronger, you can do more.
Exactly. Consistency is key.
Okay, we've covered diet and exercise. What about our mindset?
That's where behavioral and mindful eating comes in. Slow down, pay attention to your body's cues, and make conscious food choices.
No more TV dinners or scrolling while we eat.
Be present with your food. Savor each bite. Notice the textures, the flavors.
Break those mindless habits.
It can be transformative. Now, for those who want flexibility, there's flexible dieting, or IIFYM if it fits your macros.
I've heard of that. It's tracking your macros, protein, carbs, and fats to meet your needs.
Right. Hit your individual macro targets, allowing for more food choices than other diets.
So pizza one night is okay if it fits your daily macros.
That's the idea. Find a balance that works for you. Now, similar to IF, we have time-restricted eating, or TRE.
Timing again.
You got it. With TRE, you have an eating window each day, fasting the rest of the time. Common one is the 8-hour window.
So eating from, say, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., then fasting until 10 a.m. the next day.
Precisely. Potential benefits include better hormones, metabolism, even better sleep.
Wow, TRE is more than weight loss. Last method, one that's really taken off, intuitive eating.
It's about tuning into your body's hunger and fullness cues and ditching that diet mentality.
Trust your body to tell you what and when to eat.
Exactly. Reject rigid rules. Have a peaceful relationship with food.
Gentler, more sustainable than the diet roller coaster.
It's a journey. Honor your hunger, respect fullness, choose foods that nourish you, body and soul.
I love that. We've covered so much with these 13 methods.
And as you can see, there isn't one right way to lose weight.
What's great about this book is it lets you experiment, find what works for you in your life.
In the next part, we'll look at the resources in the book to support you on your journey. recipes, journaling templates.
Tools to put these methods into action. Stay tuned for more insights and tips. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into tiny changes, big results. We've gone over those core principles and 13 different weight loss methods.
Now let's look at those resources in the book, the ones that help you put it all into practice. It's not just theory, it's packed with tools.
I'm ready to open this toolkit. What really stands out?
Well, there's a whole section, 101, frequently asked questions about weight loss. It's super comprehensive, covers everything from basic calorie counting to trickier stuff, emotional eating, the psychology of it all.
Sounds like a lifesaver when you're feeling stuck or confused, like having an expert on call. What else?
For those who love to cook, or maybe need some inspiration, there are 47 popular weight loss recipes. And not your typical bland diet food.
Okay, now you've got me curious. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of recipes?
There are recipes for every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks, all designed to be tasty and good for you. Things like overnight oats with berries and nuts, hearty lentil soups, colorful stir-fries, even some healthy dessert options.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Proof that healthy eating doesn't have to be boring.
Exactly. And for those new to tracking what they eat, there's a calorie counter for all sorts of foods and drinks.
So helpful, especially when you're starting out, to understand how many calories you're actually taking in.
It can be surprising. Some seemingly healthy foods can have more calories than you think.
I've definitely been caught off guard a few times. Now, you mentioned BMR earlier. Can you remind us what that is and why it's important?
Sure. Your BMR, or basal metabolic rate, is the number of calories your body burns just by existing, even if you're resting. Breathing, blood flow, temperature regulation, all that.
So the bare minimum calories you need even if you were in bed all day.
Exactly. And the book has charts showing how things like your height, weight, age, even gender affect your BMR.
So knowing your BMR helps you figure out how many calories you need to eat to stay the same weight, lose weight, or gain weight.
It's a key piece of the puzzle. Now, for the active folks, or those who want to be, the book has a section on calories burned for different exercises.
I love this kind of stuff. It's like getting a peek inside how my body works.
It breaks down the calories burned for lots of activities: walking, swimming, strength training, even high-intensity stuff.
So if I want to burn a certain number of calories each day, I can use this info to pick activities that match my goal.
Exactly. It helps you personalize your routine, make it more effective. Speaking of personalized, for those who like journaling, and this book really recommends it, there are weight loss journaling templates.
Oh, yeah. We talked about different kinds of journaling, but having templates makes it easier to get started.
Absolutely. There are templates for tracking your food, your emotions, reflecting on your progress, even exploring your deeper reasons for wanting to lose weight.
That last one's powerful. Getting to your why can really keep you going. Wow, so many resources. It's like a treasure chest for anyone on a weight loss journey.
It really is. It's not just about information. It's about giving you the power to take action, make changes that last.
I think that's what makes it so different. Not another restrictive diet book. It's about building a healthier relationship with food, with movement, and most importantly, with yourself.
Exactly. It reminds us that real change doesn't happen overnight. It's those tiny, consistent actions we talked about. It's about progress, not perfection.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Wow.
What tiny change will you commit to today? Doesn't have to be huge, just one small step towards your goals.
Even the smallest things can make a big difference over time. Share your tiny change commitment with us, and let's inspire each other. That's it for our deep dive into tiny changes, big results. We hope this has given you some helpful insights and practical tools to help you on your journey to a healthier, happier you. Until next time, keep making those tiny changes, and we'll see you on the flip side.